Igniting, inspiring, and evoking the fire within.
Today is not the definitive end. There's a whole future out there for you, and the way you're feeling now is not the way you'll be feeling, 6 months from now, 6 days from now, 6 years from now, whatever it is. So that's what I would say.
You're listening to the What's Your Inspiration podcast with Fox Buyer.
On this episode of the What's Your Inspiration podcast, we have Donovan Russo back on as he discusses the launch of his book, Stephen's War. Here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the What's Your Inspiration podcast. He's back. Episode 22 guest, episode 34 guest. He's a man of many talents. He's Donovan Russo. Donovan, how are you today?
Bro, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be back on the show.
It's great to have you. And you're on because you're a great guest, but you're on principally today because you have you've got a brand new, your first published book, first of many, I believe, coming out. And if I could just profile it just for a minute, or profile you for a minute.
Of course.
Music, business, and now literature. Stephen's War. Marine Stephen Cahill fights the battle overseas, at home, and within. Donovan's book, it's not a superhero book, but Donovan, my first question to you is, what drew you to superheroes as a kid, and what were the seeds of this book in terms of what inspired you to write it?
Right. So I think going to your first question, my first kind of encounter with the superhero genre was when I was like 5 years old, and my dad took me to see the first Spider-Man movie, the one with Tobey Maguire in it. And I was just kind of blown away over, just this purely magical world, and kind of, that's obviously a low fantasy concept film, but between integrating that with this character who was in high school, he's just trying to find his way and loses his uncle. He's just kind of your average Joe, and he gets these powers. And he's, I think, the Peter Parker character, kind of like, like Luke Skywalker or any other beloved American character. It goes back to them being the everyman, so you could really resonate with them, right? So I think that's what really drew me. The Spider-Man, what drew me to the genre, is these people who could be just like me. If they could do incredible things, which kind of gave me the hope that maybe someday I can do incredible things, whether that's write a book or, stick to walls, which would be awesome. But clearly I can't do that yet.
Not yet.
So, yeah. And so in terms to your second question, what drew me to write this book, I think for a while I really wanted to do something within the superhero genre because, being that I like to create different things, I credit a lot of that to those movies and comics. So it was, for me, it was like, okay, well, I want to put my own spin on it. And I want to, not to use a cliched saying, but to write my love letter to the industry. That's kind of how I pose. This is my way of giving back to this community and kind of contributing to this beautiful array of creativity, right? So that's what I would say is I wanted to create something that could be part of it. And it was just kind of all fell into place because it was around like last December, where this professor, Eric Koester, reached out to me on LinkedIn asking me to be part of his creators program, which basically what he does is he likes to find different college students and different professionals and say, hey, for a small fee, you could be part of this where you write a book, you get the proper coaching and mentoring and development and editing teams, and you're linked up with this hybrid publisher named New Degree Press, and they'll help you see this book all the way through. So it was an opportunity for me to, because I have some experience writing screenplays, and I was just like, okay, well, here's a new kind of form of expression for me to kind of explore, and why not? Why not take the gamble on myself and do it? It adds to my resume, it adds to kind of what I have to offer, and I just think it was a cool platform. I mean, you saw what the cover looks like, and it's just, they really have given me a whole team of incredible creatives to help me with this.
Right. You said you gambled, but you gambled and you won. And I mean, everyone knows who listens to this that I'm a big fan of yours. I'm proud of what you're developing into as a person and professionally. And I'm an avid reader, and we've talked off of air about this. When I read, I try not to read in or force myself to read in too large of chunks, because
Right.
then I'm just reading as a means to get to an end. But I was very much engaged in this and
Thank you.
read the. You don't have to thank me. It's just a fact. Very much engaged in this, and I read the last 120 pages basically in one sitting because of this character Stephen Cahill and all of the stories and his plight that just gets spread across the entire book. Now, I need to stop myself because I'll get into the plot of the book, and I don't think we want to do that. But talk to the audience a little bit about what you want to talk about the content of this book, Stephen's War.
Well, I think for one, I mean, it's being marketed as, you know, this LGBTQ vigilante type comic book story, which is certainly true. I mean, that's he fights at night, he fights crime. But I definitely think that my approach to writing this story was I really want to make this character driven rather than focus too much on the plot. So I really prioritize diving deep into the characters, diving deep into their minds, and, you know, sometimes going off on these little side stories. And, you know, you mentioned up there how you like my way of describing things. And I think the way I describe things, and, you know, especially in this book, is different from in a traditional sense, where I'm not really interested in describing what the walls look like too much, or, you know, what the weather is. For me, it's more of, I'm going to build the world by going off in some side story of, you know, how this character caught his wife sleeping with a private detective, or, you know, things of that nature, or how this other character's, you know, mother was sleeping with his friends in high school. And, you know, it's bizarre, but I think it's funny, and I think it does kind of build that authenticity. So I think for me, it was really focusing on creating something that was character driven, a character who, yeah, he is in a sense superhuman, right? Because he's fighting crime, but he's also just a guy trying to figure it out. You know, the book takes place in 2009, right when, you know, the don't ask, don't tell policy was very much still integrated within the military, which basically, you know, said that you can be gay, but if you get caught, you could be thrown out. So in essence, I think it's fair to say that the military didn't necessarily approve of being gay. So, you know, you have this character who's, you know, he's wants to be a true American patriot. At the same time, he's dealing with these, you know, these inner thoughts, and the fact that he is gay and that he loves somebody who he works with in the military. So I think that's, you know, those themes that conflict carries on throughout the book. And it's, you know, there's a mix of guilt and shame and confusion, and, you know, trying to accept who he is. So yeah, I think that above anything else, this is a story about a guy just trying to figure out who he is.
You know, like I said, I mean, I don't know if you like this line, but it's the battle overseas, the battle at home, and the battle within. And
Yeah, totally.
Things are Cuisinarted into an awesome story. And I'll mention this too, mention it off air. What kept me engaged so much is that this book has willpower. And what that is, it's an acronym that I stole from a songwriter named Brent Baxter on another podcast. What's it look like? Willpower. And you use that descriptives, not to describe the walls, but to
Right.
to dig into the characters' souls. You literally see into their soul. And that's what made it attractive to me and kept me engaged. It's awesome. It's awesome. Getting into some of the themes of the book. One to me is friendship, right? Things happen in life, right? Good, bad, and indifferent, and loyalty is an enormous theme. Fill in the following line, Donovan. A true friend is,
I think, someone who has your back, you know. I think that's one of the things we see throughout the book. But yeah, I'd say a true friend is someone who has your back, even when, you know, things get real crazy. That's what I'd say.
And they do in life, and you'll see a lot of that in Stevens Warren in so many ways, and it's wild. So many ways, it's wild. So a true friend has your back. All right, let's go to the next little snippet.
Sure.
Theme from the book. A man's path to enlightenment is never straightforward.
Right.
Donovan, you have the whole world in front of you and this book in front of you. What exactly do you want to do with it? What are your desires for this book? Who do you want it to reach?
Right. I think for one, over the past few years, we have seen from a consumer standpoint that there is a demand for more diversity in media, right? I think specifically within the comic book genre. So I think for one, I wanted this book to represent, the LGBTQ community. Definitely because, they have been neglected a bit on screens. I wanted to create a character that people could identify with, see themselves in, to bring more light to the community and more representation. So I think that's for one. I wanted to create an LGBTQ vigilante, for that community. So I think that's number one. So it was to build more representation. I think two, it was, to kind of convey my writing skills and, what I bring to the table. So yeah, I think that those are the two things. And I think it's, bringing through the themes of loving yourself, embracing your individuality. Because as I mentioned, Stephen, he deals with these conflicts of, not even really conflicts to him. He sees them as conflicts of being gay and, trying to balance American patriotism with who he is. And I think it goes back to him learning to love himself. I think that's an important theme that I like to get across within this book.
Certainly. You've really found your tribe. I think, what I mean by that is, writers typically, in a lot of ways, right, do a certain theme, right? Motley Crue, Motley Crue. It's all about girls, right?
Right.
Get the girl. I mean, Kenny Chesney, take your shoes off. You're going to be barefoot on the beach, and a lot of his songs have that theme to it. You really have found something that's clear, okay, and uniquely yours, and you're making a supportive statement through your writing. It's very, very impressive.
Thank you.
The final question I have for you is this. A lot of the book and Stephen's character is he just feels like he doesn't belong, right?
Right.
Doesn't belong in where he is, whether it's overseas, in Salem, wherever. What advice do you have for people who feel like they don't belong?
Well, look, I think that's kind of how, that's life in a nutshell. Is there are days where I think we all feel like we don't belong, whether you're, an A-list celebrity or, just a kid in college or whatever it is, I think you just have to keep going every day, right? I think that's kind of the truth, because you're going to have days where you feel on top of the world, days where you feel like you're at rock bottom, and days where you just feel like, yeah, I'm just doing okay today, and in the middle. So I think it's just a matter of keep going, pursue your passions, pursue, education, whether that's going to school, whether that's just reading online, whatever it is, seeking new experiences. You want to continue to evolve as a human being, right? Because I once said to a friend that if I'm the same person now that I am in 5 years, then I'm failing as a person, because you should be changing every day, right? So I think that's what I would say is, today is not the definitive end. There's a whole future out there for you, and the way you're feeling now is not the way you'll be feeling, 6 months from now, 6 days from now, 6 years from now, whatever it is. So that's what I would say.
So your point of view on a growth mindset. Very nice. I like it. Talk to us a little bit about the launch of the book, and maybe you have an offer waiting for the listeners.
Right. So the book comes out December 7th. Should be available on Amazon. And I'd love to offer a signed copy of the book to one lucky individual, whoever would like it.
So how can they get their hands on a signed copy? How can they contact you?
So I have a website, donovanrusso.com. There's a contact me page. Just send me a note. Talk about, I guess, your love for the comic book genre, some of your favorite movies, and I guess why you want to read it, and then I'll send it your way.
Okay. And I'm going to add that link in the show notes, the link to your website, in other words. So
thanks so much.
You're welcome. And again, a free signed copy of Stephen's War from the author, Donovan Russo himself. And again, I know that I'm biased. I know as a former coach of yours, teacher, and now a friend, I am biased. But you know what? I'm not ashamed to say that. But the truth is, this is a very engaging read. Stephen's War, coming out December the 7th on Amazon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been, again, an awesome conversation. It's great to almost see you in person.
Right.
We navigate COVID-19. And we'll have you back on here pretty soon. Maybe we'll do a review of the book in the coming months. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Whatever you want to do. Love it. Thank you so much.
It's been a lot of fun, Donovan. Again, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Seriously. Thanks so much for having me on. Thanks for everybody who took the time to listen.
This will wrap up episode 56 of the What's Your Inspiration podcast. Donovan and I will talk at you all later. Take good care.
You have been listening to the What's Your Inspiration podcast with Fox Buyer, because impact on each other is the greatest currency you could ever have.